The security deposit is important to both of the parties, but causes contention as they disagree over what it should be. The client seemed offended that the landlord required a deposit as it seemed as a gesture of lacking trust.
The length of the lease was important to both of the parties. The landlord wanted a shorter lease of 3 to 6 months, whilst the tenant preferred a longer lease of up to 5 years.
Utilities is important to the tenant. The tenant wants utilities to be included. However, landlord wants to supply utilities as low as possible.
The cleaning policy is equally important to both parties, but was barely approached due to disagreements already caused. Bi-weekly cleaning would have been best for both parties, but they never reached an agreement.
Monthly rent seems to be valued by most parties. However, the landlord valued monthly rent more than the potential tenant according to the point system. Both parties are very distributive and both are not willing to compromise.
The landlord states that the reputation of the building she owns is important, along with making sure that the tenants occupying their building are happy, safe and fulfilling their duties.
The parties were unable to reach an agreement due to various reasons. The first reason is that there was almost an immediate personal disliking by the landlord.
There was almost too much competing. Both parties were eager to tell one another that they had another deal on the table. The tenant was very clear from the start that he had a good offer from another party, which made him feel like he was in a more privileged position. Another reason is when the landlord asks if the client would be able to fulfill more than a 3-month lease, the client seems indignant and almost laughs it off, without giving a solid reply until later on. The term that the client gives seems unreasonable and the landlord acts very surprised, to which the client seems offended once again.
In addition to this, the tenant party was also very stubborn on what he demanded, which didn't go down well with the landlord. It is also worth considering that the landlord party already had a potential tenant for a good deal, so why would she bother working with a tenant that is particularly hard to negotiate with?
Both parties' intentions did not seem to be on the same page, with both parties quick to tell each other that they have other offers on the table, and at the beginning of the negotiation it was mentioned that it was unlikely that they will make an agreement. In addition to this, because of the potential tenant's actions, we believe that the landlord did not feel as if the tenant wanted the lease. Therefore, she did not feel intrigued to pursue a deal with the tenant.
Also, when bargaining took place, we feel as if there was little to no settlement range where the two parties could agree on. For most leasing issues, the tenants and the landlord's aspirations were too far apart, and the tenant was too stubborn to compromise on any of the leasing issues.
More apparent with this negotiation is that there was more distributive bargaining than integrated bargaining. This means that both the tenant and the landlord seek to divide a fixed amount of resources, in this case the conditions of the lease. This creates a win-lose situation, and as both parties had deals already on the table, they felt as if they were in a position of power that they could win and get a good deal.
Another reason was the potential tenant was not serious enough. This gives off a great personal effect on the landlord, as it seemed like he did not want to try and negotiate anything.
In terms of moods and emotions, we feel as if the potential tenant did not have the most welcoming of moods or attitude, because when the landlord made suggestions in the negotiation of the terms in the lease, the potential tenant became somewhat defensive and never seemed satisfied with what the landlord was offering.
Finally, we believe gender difference also played a large part in the failure to reach an agreement. It seemed as if the potential tenant agreed with the stereotype that men placing a higher value on status, power and recognition.
First, creates the bargaining zone. One of the basic reasons that two parties did not reach an agreement is that both two parties did not make a concession. The parties should make a concession on security deposit and utility deposit. For example, tenant agreed to pay some security deposit and decrease the requirement of the utilities. Secondly, do not use the alternative offer in early negotiation. Although the backup offer gives high pressure to the other party, but it will decrease the confidence of the party to reach an agreement. In the early stage of negotiation, both the tenant and the landlord should act in a good faith and they are willing to negotiate. The alternative choice should be used in later negotiation when both parties' resistance points are getting close. The offer will give both parties pressures and a chance to make a concession in order to reach agreement.
There were a couple points where the landlord did not seem to signal a sense of trust to the tenant. This trust is extremely important in being able to negotiate, as it keeps the other party engaged and feeling as if their needs are being met. A way to circumvent this would be for the landlord and tenant to state their intentions directly. Had they explained why they wanted a higher security deposit instead of signaling that they did not really trust the tenant, they could have reached a better agreement on the security deposit, or at least one that did not make the tenant feel like they could not be trusted. They also could have created some sort of superordinate goal, a goal that both parties could share and aim for in their dealings. This could have at least helped them come to an agreement on office cleaning, for instance, a compatible issue that could have easily been solved but was hardly approached in this scenario. Finally, they could learn to compromise. While both parties knew they had alternatives, they seemed very unwilling to give in to either person's wants or needs in the rental contract and barely tried to concede. Compromising could have given each of the parties something they want in exchange for areas that they did not care about as much. For instance, in looking at the log rolling issues of utilities and monthly rent, the landlord could have compromised more utilities for a higher monthly rent, and vice versa for the tenant.
A limitation for decreasing the bargaining zone is that with a shorter amount of time, the tenant and the landlord may not be able to reach a disagreement that provides a win-win situation for both parties within a short time frame.
A limitation of the second recommendation is that although they are both aiming to use cooperative negotiating, by not mentioning other offers that they have been presented with does create a lack of pressure which may decrease the urgency to reach a suitable agreement for both parties. For the last recommendation, although compromising is an effective solution, it does however mean that the tenant and the landlord may not achieve the very best outcome that they wanted, which may lead to some disappointment. However, by compromising, they will be able to achieve some of what they wanted and thus reach an agreement. For the last recommendation,